I got that California.
Vegito or Gogeta. I want to discuss in this video something that almost everybody neglects when talking about these two iconic characters, because it seems that everybody is always inclined to take one side over the other, despite them being somewhat similar. I mean, they are essentially a combination of two of the same set of characters, that being Goku and Vegeta obviously. But for years, what set them apart in the Z era was the style and method of fusion. In return, this gave us enough to differentiate them apart and understand their role in the Dragon Ball series. For example, you understand why Vegito featured against Wuhan instead of Gogeta. Thus, the Potara fusion was the faster and more accessible option at the time. However, I feel that in modern Dragon Ball, these differences that set them apart in the first place are diminishing fast along what made them unique and special in the first place. Let me just say this right now, I honestly do not care or give a crap on who's stronger. This video is not about who comes on top. This video is talking about the issue of them being way too similar, and some of the things that the Dragon Ball community keeps on ignoring. The Dragon Ball fanbase and community as a whole is quite embarrassing to say the least when it comes to arguing on who is better between Gogeta and Vegito. People trying to impose their opinion as fact just because they're biased. I mean, ignorance is a choice, but if you're going to make claims, then at least make the slightest effort to do some kind of research. People are so caught up with who is stronger and who is better that they believe that's the most defining and important trait a character should possess. So what if Gogeta is weaker than Vegito, and vice versa? Regardless on who is stronger should not change or determine on who you like more. That's quite shallow and speaks a lot about you if all you care is the most boring thing about a character. Now, you must wonder, since I'm going in on fans for their superficial opinions, what do I think about this debate? Like I said, what concerns me is the fundamental part of what separates them apart. That's why last time I made a video on them, it was regarding the differences of both characters. Mind you, that video was 2 years ago when I first started making YouTube videos, meaning a lot of the things I mentioned in that video are no longer valid and no longer apply in modern Dragon Ball. In that video, I even stated that Vegito was written to be stronger than Gogeta, as the Potara earrings were stated to be a stronger method of fusion with no limitation, as you have the ability to fuse with almost anyone and still get a power boost. That's why Goku is actually considering fusing with Mr. Satan via the Potaras, where it would normally be impossible to fuse with Mr. Satan using the fusion dance, because it would require both characters to be at the same power level, meaning Goku would need to decrease his strength and match it with Mr. Satan in order to fuse, making the theoretical fusion much weaker. So if a theoretical fusion dance between Mr. Satan and Goku is weaker than the theoretical Potara fusion, then that must mean by default Vegito was stronger than Gogeta in the Dragon Ball Z era. Notice how I said DBZ era, as I'm strictly talking about both characters prior to Dragon Ball Super. In addition, the Daizenshu says that Potara fusions grants a rival boost. The old Kai even comments how Goku and Vegeta's past rivalry made the fusion even more complete. Now, the only reason why I'm mentioning this is only to dispel some of the old misconceptions that people had, because people are acting as if they already knew that Gogeta and Vegito were equal, which again, if you were part of the community and you made the smallest amount of research, you would know that that wasn't true back then. Again, I'm not biased to either side, I'm just stating facts on how Dragon Ball Super completely tampers and changes a lot of things. So let's revisit the first detrimental change. Oh yes, the return of Vegito. The infamous episode that had die-hard Vegito fans so butthurt, their butt cheeks started clenching out of sheer hate. Of course, I've already addressed this a long time ago when it came out. However, the biggest talking point that spawned from this was the retcon they made in that episode. They introduced the Potara fusion time limit. Now I say retcon because it was clearly stated before that the Potara fusion was permanent. It was even stated in the manga along many other multiple guides. Regardless on how they diffused inside of Buu, Akira Toriyama prior to Dragon Ball Super never stated that the Potara fusion had a time limit. Of course, not only does it have a time limit now, but the fusion can't last long enough due to how powerful Vegito was. which really makes the introduction of the time limit really pointless. This unfortunately makes the Potara fusion essentially slightly more useful than the fusion dance due to the supposed 1 hour time limit compared to the 30 minutes, meaning there are no repercussions from using the Potara earrings unless you're a Kaioshin. Now let's fast forward quickly to 2018, where Dragon Ball Super finally introduced Gogeta. Now, without talking too much on how beautiful and amazing the fighting, choreography, and mouth-watering visuals were in this movie, Gogeta's introduction was truly something that I myself desperately wanted to see in Dragon Ball Super, mainly because his character made sense. His existence made sense. There is no reason why he should not exist. In fact, I preferred saying Gogeta instead of Vegito during the Zamasu fight. Now obviously Gogeta was a huge selling point in this movie, and because it was such a big deal, the writers wanted to hype this movie up by declaring that Gogeta is as strong as Vegito, which honestly, reflecting on it, I can tell you exactly why they mentioned that, but I'll leave it until the end of this video. Now, I'm perfectly aware of the Dragon Ball fan base and their obsession with power scaling and comparing which character is stronger. It's always been part of the Dragon Ball culture. I also know firsthand how toxic fans can get when it comes to power scaling. I mean, I still get people DMing me in my Twitter till this day crying about an opinion I had in one of my previous videos. However, my intent in this video is not to dispute Gogeta being considered as strong as Vegito. If they wanted Gogeta to be stronger, then fine. If they wanted him to be weaker, then fine. But making them equal and making them both have a time limit kills what made them unique in the first place. If Gogeta is as strong as Vegito, then there should be no reason for Vegito anymore. The only reason why Vegito would ever be introduced again is if they didn't have the chance to perform the fusion dance. Regardless, I know this doesn't automatically make Vegito and Gogeta the same. After all, they still both have different fighting styles and different costumes, along a slightly different character design, with Vegito leaning towards a more cocky and belligerent attitude that resembles that of Vegeta. His physical appearance matches that of Goku's, which I addressed this before in my 7 differences video. The Potara fusion assumes the dominant traits of both characters. Gogeta, on the other hand, from a design perspective, looks like a perfect 50-50% of Goku and Vegeta. But putting aside the obvious differences of them having different names and outfits, the two dominant traits and differences were the time limit and power level. So this begs the question, if Gogeta is truly as strong as Vegito, and they both have the time limit, is there even a need for Vegito besides a quicker method to fusion? I don't know about you guys, but a lot of what grabbed me in the first place about these two were how different they were. Gogeta being the safe and quick method to dismantle an enemy, where Vegito is used in case they had no other options and needed more power. This added more repercussions when using the Potara fusion, and motivates characters to use the fusion dance, when the risk isn't that high. Like I said, the Potara earrings in Dragon Ball Z was a last-ditch effort, when there was a no way out. But by the looks of it, the writers care too much about pleasing both Vegito fanboys and Gogeta fanboys by saying they're equal. Regardless on whether that magazine said, and regardless whether Gogeta or Vegito is stronger, I'm still genuinely happy to see both of them in the franchise. However, what I'm not a fan of is seeing some of their defining traits and characteristic diminishing. I'm not trying to be dramatic or anything, because like I said, you can like whoever you want. But just realize, just because you think one is stronger than the other doesn't make them a worse character like people seem to imply. I don't know why people generally love to choose one or the other. It's like, why not like both? I myself like them both almost equally, but what triggers me is when there is a clear misunderstanding towards their background and characterizations. That's why I myself got a little butthurt when I watched the Dragon Ball Broly movie English dub, where Gogeta says he's the fusion of Vegeta and Kakarot. And then he goes on and tries to make up a name by combining Goku's name and Vegeta. Like, seriously, Funimation, how can you fuck that up? It's in the name. Vegito, on the other hand, is the one who refers to himself as the fusion of Vegeta and Kakarot. His name is a combination of Kakaroto and Vegeta, hence Vegito, which is the more correct way to type it, by the way. Thanks, Viz Media. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, so please tell me in the comments on what you think about these two characters. And you know what? Fuck it. Tell me who's your favorite and why. Comment by either hashtag Gogeta or hashtag Vegito. Other than that, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, please follow me on Twitter. Peace.